we will be discussing one topic only, and it is to find out one follow-up action that we can work together on after what we learned from COP26. I would like to invite each of you to raise your hands and share your comments with us for tonight. Also your questions to our speakers. Mr. Thompson, could I receive your comments?
Thank you very much. What a fantastic evening of dialogue. Don, you summed it up so brilliantly. I really don't want to be pouring cold water on things, but since we're amongst friends, can we consider a hard question? What can we do together to help our fellow persons of faith to face the hang-ups and difficulties that they have in taking science seriously and in taking responsibility for our world seriously? I find that too many of my co-religionists think that their faith points to pie in the sky when you die, rather than taking responsibility for the here and now. And a worrying number of people are eschewing the usefulness of science and scientific insight, not least through the COVID pandemic. I'm sitting here sheltering at home because I've now got COVID, but I wasn't going to miss the fun. So it's great to see you. So I hope you receive that as a very constructive question. Thank you.
I would like to turn to my speakers. Who would like to try to answer this question? Hi, Nicole, please.
Thank you for your question. And what I understand is that one, we can share information as facts, trying not to be emotional about it, but just sharing of facts. And then also through our own lifestyle, I think we have to live the changes that we want to see in others and in the world, and that inspires others as well. And I'm aware that, making changes is more or less challenging for each one of us. So also to acknowledge others for, the little changes that they're starting to make. I think that gives them hope and courage to continue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicole.
Can I also...
Thank you. Can I just respond to that very interesting question?
Sure, please.
Thank you. Thank you for that really interesting question. When I started working with UNEP, and when UNEP was established, I had quite a number of dialogues with faith leaders, some of whom were extremely concerned about the fact that the ecological message of interdependence would run contrary to their scriptures, because they felt that the earth is there for man's dominion. But it is quite interesting that over the past 30 years, this whole process has changed, and you find that His Holiness, the Pope Francis, in 2015 came out with a seminal document called Laudato Si, which talks about the stewardship of people. And also you find that many faith leaders, I personally look at it as a positive progression to see that there are many faith leaders who are now taking these matters seriously. Yes, there is still a bit of a gap between science and faith. At the same time, you find that in the case in the UK, giving one small example of vaccinations, it is quite interesting to see that in different parts of the UK, quite a number of temples have made their spaces available as vaccination centers for communities. That I find a very positive factor and are running some really interesting awareness programs concerning the need for people to vaccinate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Don.
Can I add something quickly?
Yes.
And it extends wider to people of religion as well. But I think whenever talking about climate change, sustainability, one, you need to inform people so that they actually understand the wider picture. But two, framing it is very important. And, you know, I'm not saying to change the truth to suit the person that you're speaking to, but if one religion very much prioritizes stewardship of the earth, well, there we go. We've got, you know, stop climate change. If a religion is respect your fellow people, well, you can talk about the negative effects that climate change is having on people. So understanding where they're coming from, giving them the information, and then accurately framing that to make sure that lands and resonates with them. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Matt. I would like to continue with the next question now. AJ, did we cover your question or is it something different?
Hi, thanks. No, it was something related to that, but also slightly different. I've actually just put it into the chat because I'm not sure how much time I would have. But just essentially, sorry, I joined a bit late, but just to highlight the idea of in some religious and faith traditions, there could be some kind of a tension between sort of the purpose of mankind, as some of the previous speakers said, and why we use the earth and scientific points of view, which is why I think humanist and secular belief systems, where I personally come from as well and represent, they also sort of deserve a space in this discussion. And we can see, for example, like Greta Thunberg's efforts that have come from a secular and a humanist point of view without reference to any specific faith. They also deserve their place. And especially among young people, you look at some of the figures, sort of 50-70% of people under 35 don't have any professed religious faith. They still have beliefs and they still have sort of human feelings, and they want to work with society and care about the world and all the other human attributes, but it just doesn't belong to a particular faith. So I think that we need to be conscious about that as well. And I think engaging in interfaith fora like this will help strengthen people's understanding of religions and also their understanding of humanism and secular ways of living in the world. And so, sorry I couldn't be part of the conversation earlier on today, but I know that RFP do a lot of work with humanist and secular voices, and I think it's only to our benefit. So looking forward to the rest of your points today as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment, AJ. Please do use the youth coordinator, the email that I keep sharing in the chat. If you would like to further discuss about tonight, I will do my best to connect with you, our speakers. I would like to continue with the next question. Hi, Jihangir. Did we cover your question?
Thank you very much, Eda. My question is very simple. When David Attenborough was asked, what is the one thing that needs to be done and for the major change that is required? And I think he hit the nail on the head when he said, stop wasting. Stop wasting. If we stop wasting, the sustainability comes in, overconsumption comes in. So I think one of the issues that we must seriously consider the promotion of how we educate people to stop wasting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jihangir. I would like to continue now. Sorry for rushing in with Dr. Karishma. Hello, Dr. Karishma.
Thank you, Ada, for this wonderfully positive event, an intergenerational event, and kudos to the organizers and the speakers today. I'm here with my mummy, Jeru, representing the Zoroastrian Trust Funds of Europe. What I'd like to ask the speakers, which I'll put in the chat box now, is how do they view the synergy between science, governance, and the faiths? And I'd also like to highlight how wonderful it has been to hear Don and Ravinderji continue the dialogue that they started at the Zoroastrian Trust Funds of Europe symposium called towards COP26, for which I'd like to give our president, Mr. Malcolm Daegu, and also Mr. Jahangir Sarosh, my mentor, gratitude and credit. So how do our young and seniors in this intergenerational dialogue view the synergy that we can achieve between these three areas: science, faiths, and governments? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lovely seeing you tonight. With respect, I'd like to take this question to Ravinder, if you'd like to comment on Ravinder, and then I'll ask to my rest of the speakers.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question, Krishmaji. Personally, I felt that at COP26, there wasn't, the faith communities and people who were outside of the COP scenario, which was going on inside, their voices weren't being heard. I mean, we had the Global Climate March, where 100,000 people from all over the world, they came to it, but they weren't allowed anywhere near the actual venue where the governmental delegates were and the world leaders were. Regarding the connection between science and religion, those who were actually in the blue zone and the green zone, they were connecting together. I think the networking that happened and the action hub, the realization that people from different parts of the world were finding solutions, and the scientists and the faith communities were connecting together. I think that was very positive. I mean, for example, the example that I gave myself, where the EcoSIC organization is connecting with Ghana to take forward the Sacred Forest Initiative. Whether the chance to actually sort of speak with delegations was done at the pavilions, and we were able to communicate with them the issues and the wisdom that faith communities have regarding climate justice. So there have been inroads, but a lot of work still needs to be done.
Thank you, Ravinderji. The other thing that is really important is the commonalities between all the faiths and none. In the light of what Jahangir Sarosh mentioned, that we all seek to develop our choices with responsibility to reduce wastage. As Matt mentioned so importantly, the concept of consumerism versus the concept of being a caregiver. Thank you.
But can I also mention that what I saw at this COP was the coming together of businesses, governments, and organizations to, there was an impetus that, yes, they need to do something together. I mean, businesses also consume a lot and they waste a lot as well. So I think, and also the solutions that were there from different organizations. For example, Prince William did the finalists of the Earthshot Prize were there as well. So I think more needs to be given to the fact of finding solutions and giving those organizations a platform, a much better platform, so that we can share practice and learn from each other.
Thank you so much, Ravinder. Thank you so much for waiting, Dr. Mark. Could I have your question if we haven't covered it already?
My question is, was the faith voice sufficiently or adequately heard at COP26? And I really think that in answering that question from our Christian perspective, I think we need to encourage one another in different faiths by drawing from the faiths important parables or aspects of the faith literature that encourages our participation in the environment. one of the best ones that I found within the Christian perspective is the feeding of the 5,000, the parable that Jesus gives to us, and that event, that miracle, because it first of all talks about looking immediately in front of you to find solutions, because Peter said to Philip, how are we going to feed such a huge crowd? The other thing is, because of the bias within the scriptures of men, it actually included women and children as well, so that there was a much bigger crowd there. And that speaks about the whole need for greater inclusivity. The fact that just 5 barley loaves and 2 fish were offered is very significant, because they're actually the food of the poor. And so we need to bring that aspect in. The fact that it was offered by a little boy or a young lad who was out on his picnic for the day just speaks about the youth dimension and the importance of young people. And also, no matter how small our offering, God always blesses it enormously and provides sufficient for a great capacity of people. And so we need to look at what small offerings we can make in order to make a difference in this world. And then, the fact that people partook of the meal and were well satisfied, because they were requested to pick up what remained over. And there were 12 basketfuls, and obviously that has a theological understanding to it. But it also speaks about the importance of dealing with waste. That nothing was insignificant that was left over. It had to be gathered up, and the need for us to gather up resources as they are made available to us, so that we can get on with this most important task. So, what I'd really like to learn from other faiths, and that is what parables within their faith perspective they can offer to environmental change, so that we can all grow together and actually then begin to speak with one voice as faith communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark, for your comment. It is really important, and I think we try to cover all of the speakers, they try to cover the importance of it. Do we have any comments from my speakers? I know Nicole is waiting. Nicole, was it related to this, or would you like to also comment on covering what just Mark said? Thank you.
So I'll just answer the question quickly. So from my belief, I could contribute that, we are encouraged not to be greedy, and I think that's also very common in other religions and other traditions as well. But this leads to another point, and that is, why do we feel the need for greed? And that addresses, I think Jero is your name. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correctly. The connection between science and religion, and actually also, politics, government, organizations. I think the common factor of all of that is, it all involves human beings. We need to look at the root cause of greed, for example. And the root cause, like I mentioned before, I believe is that there is an inner emptiness. And as long as there is an inner emptiness, we will always be drawn to consume more than we really need for our well-being, our survival, our well-being. So that's why spiritual or religious practices are so important to come into that experience of the inner richness, the inner fullness.
I'm also checking the chat, and also what we are saying at the moment is incredible. I think that intergenerational dialogue and also international, in fact, there are so many international members who joined us tonight, needs to be continued to tackle joint problems concerning environmental problems. And I hope we all can take it forward. with having this event as a start of it, or continues to COP26 outcomes. I would like to continue now with Don.
Thank you. A few responses. The first thing is that in my experience with global summits, I tried, when I was responsible for accreditation to non-governmental organizations or civic groups, when we asked for representation from faith organizations to particularly input into different committees, and we gave the responsibility to faith organizations in the past, not now. I'm just sharing my experience. There was conflict, and there was a complete tussle between faith organizations who could not agree as to who would represent them. I think this is much, much better now, the ambience and the way things are going. The second thing, which is really important, is that faith groups need to gather together, collect the information concerning what they are doing concretely in the field, such as dealing with homelessness, such as tree planting, such as dealing with waste, and so on and so forth, and present these evidence of what is concretely being done. Because faith organizations throughout the world are doing some incredible things. If you look at education, for example, or for that matter, caregiving. I don't think caregiving in the UK would be effective if faith organizations were not in the picture. But these need to be gathered together and presented as evidence and information. Then we can act with responsibility to show the fact that we are doing a really important, meaningful work concerning sustainable issues. Thank you.
My question was regarding the life cycle of packaging, because obviously now there's this awareness about the problem with plastics, but I personally am confused at the moment which packaging is actually the most environmental friendly, looking at the whole life cycle of the packaging. So that's what I wanted to ask Matt.
I'm actually putting together a document on all the various points that go into the life cycle, the science and the choice making, because at the bottom line, it's a question of responsible choice, for which we need enough information to evaluate in order to take decisions. So that is a very important thing that I'm actually working on now with a small group of people. In a few months, it will be ready and I will share it with you.
Thank you for that.
Eda, can I just respond very quickly? A quarter of a minute to say that there is detailed information about this particular matter, and if the speaker could get in touch with me, I'll be happy to point out the relevant information where she could get this information from. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Do we have any other comments related to this topic? Hi, AJ.
Yeah, thank you. I want to pick up on the idea of, well, one of the points that we raised in the chat was, it was COP26 successful? Was it worth it? And also, how is it different from COP25? And one of the things that I keep coming back to is, if things are too business friendly, or if, like, Rishi Sunak standing up there and all of these banks and, Mark Carney, the head of the Federal Reserve in Canada, all of the big players are there, and they're all agreeing and they're nodding their heads. I mean, I don't want to be a radical for the radical's sake, but something is not right. Something may be missing, especially if people like Greta Thunberg and David Attenborough are telling us the real discussions, and people have mentioned it here, the real discussions aren't what were going on inside COP, but were on the streets outside in Glasgow with the people that weren't being listened to. Now, of course, you have to keep pushing putting pressure on institutions to change. And I think coming back to the faith and interfaith parts of this, I think both secular and humanist belief systems and also faith-based systems can provide an override to that. And that's very important. So we can provide ways in which people, because of our holy books or writings, or because of beliefs about science and about human morality and authority, we can provide override mechanisms to ensure that people who are caught up in, for example, big institutions or banks or whatever, and they are in a systematic choice where they have no choice. If they try to be green or greener or more greener than their board of directors allows, they'd be out of a job. For those kind of people, we need to provide some other kind of a framework and a system for them to act and be initiated. And I think that's where faith, fits into the argument. So I think we'd have to be a bit cautious, I think, about taking away too many plaudits from, I think getting into institutional agreement is very important, but it's not the be-all and end-all. And I think faith has that transcendent, and belief systems generally have that transcendent quality where they can transcend above economics and profit and sort of, and treaties and things like this, where we have to have a higher standard, I think, and sometimes maybe even a divine standard, however you choose to define that, or God, can be useful in these things. So I think I wanted to just make that point about the takeaway from COP26 and maybe not being too optimistic or complacent. Thank you.
Thank you so much, AJ. May I just respond to you? I was rather curious, and this is to just pull your leg a bit, to joke a little bit, because I heard you saying that humanists have belief systems as well. Yeah. That's quite interesting to hear you say that. That's just a joke from a Buddhist perspective.
Well, humans have belief systems. I mean,
yes,
I always
indeed.
joke, there's a sort of like friends of faith or interfaith. And I always joke, well, you guys are the faith and we're the friends. Yeah. But even that is not really, everyone has faith. We have faith in human beings. We have faith in systems. We have faith in the scientific method or with prayer or whatever. Humans have to, we can't have all the knowledge in our own heads. So I think humans have belief systems.
Yeah, we don't in Buddhism really have faith as such. We have what is known as Shraddha, which is trust. But trust. I just want to point out that
semantics.
Yes, I just want to point out that in the case of business, I think the critical thing that we have demonstrated here is that the issue is not an either or. It is not business, or government.
That's fantasy anyway.
Yes.
That will never happen. So we have to have both.
Young people. It is both an end. It is a unifying process. And also with business, the important thing is now to see that businesses are also investing in green business and technology. That is a positive thing that has emerged from 2015, looking at the figures and the investment to now.
I mean, it's there. It's big companies being forced to, even at the PR level, maybe not at the investment level, but even the PR level and investment level, getting their checkbooks out. It's better than nothing. It's better than not having the attention. But we only have to evaluate that in terms of what's needed. In terms of what's needed, how much are they investing and how much are they curbing their is it net zero? Is that enough net zero carbon? What about zero carbon? What about leaving fossil fuels in the ground?
Yeah.
Which companies are saying that? That's kind of what we have to demand, because if you shoot for the stars, you land on the moon, right? If we accept the business paradigm of no green growth, no come along, then we'll get much less than that. So I think we have to have the sort of the faith standard, the divine standard in holy writings, whatever our own belief systems are. That has to be a higher standard, and we cannot be having marking on a curve these businesses and giving them too much leg room, I think.
Thank you so much for your input, AJ, and everybody. I think, we are not saying anything differently, and we are trying to point out the same joint points, which is we are together in this. It's not only grassroots level problem. It's not only government problem. It's all world's problem, and we all are trying to find solutions for a better future. I would really like to have last comments, if that's okay. I'm not able to take any further questions, unfortunately. Can I start with George? Hello, Mr. George Valentine.
Hello. I was at COP26. I am Glaswegian. It's the biggest thing ever to happen in the history of my home city, although I live in Leicester for half my life. I'm a member of the Baha'i community, and the Baha'is were very closely involved in the interfaith efforts. The director of Interfaith Scotland is a long-standing member of the Baha'i community. So those principles of world unity, harmony between different beliefs, was really central to the interfaith work that was done there. In connection with secular humanists, it was mentioned a moment ago, secular humanism is regarded as equal to a faith-based belief system in UK law under the Equality Act of 2010, which recognises religion or belief as being equal in the eyes of the law and able to make equal contributions to the well-being of society. I was on the march, I was in the rally at Glasgow Green with 100,000 people, and in that atmosphere, I think what was felt was the politicians, negotiators and decision makers are irrelevant in the end. We, the people, cannot close down a coal-powered power station in Delhi. We cannot change the wording of the agreement to say phasing out of coal or fossil fuels. But it was really felt like the power resided with the people. And I think a lot of folk who were involved in that 100,000 strong march and rally were realising that for the very first time. And they were ordinary people, you know, it wasn't dyed-in-the-wool hippies or leftovers from the 1970s beatnik movement. It was regular people with their families, with small children out there. And they were seeing that they can create a future and participate in a new way of doing things that to a certain extent, and I think in future COPs, is liable to somehow or other find its way to bypassing the great and the good and the decision makers. And really, and I don't know quite how this is going to come about because I belong to the wrong side of that generational divide, make these changes that will ensure our survival and our thriving somehow outside of the conventional political system. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. And I know that you also participated in Glasgow and you did tremendous tries and also different actions during your time there. We do really appreciate your input as well. I'd like to continue with Jihangir. Jihangir, can I get it in 1 minute time if that's okay? Thank you.
Certainly. I'm speaking as a businessman. 50 years I've been working in industry, and I had to deliver what the consumer wanted. Just a simple example, very often I packed things where the packaging was more expensive than the content because people wanted that. If I tried to sell it without the packaging or inferior packaging, it didn't sold. So the change needs to take place in us. That is where the change takes place, and then business is run on demand and supply, and demand is what needs to be curbed. Thank you. My minute's over.
Thank you so much, Jihangir, and thank you for pointing out the consumer behavior that my colleague Dawood just put it in the chat as well. Finn, you waited really long to raise your main comment. Could you please go ahead and share it with us?
I want to thank everyone really for talking with so much respect. I think this is very rare. Don mentioned the blah, blah, blah quote by Greta Thunberg. And of course that may or may not have its place, but I really wanted to share my feeling that this feels very special, that we have this intergenerational, international, interfaith dialogue. It's really very incredible, and I think it's something that's very unique. And it's up to us, like Jihangir said, it's in us. It's that what needs to say first, and businesses, so maybe they respond, and then it's also just led by people. And it's talks like this that treat each other with respect, where we can learn to understand and approach each other really how to go about this change. And the shouting does, at least in this space, has no place. And so I really hope that we can continue this discussion in the future and treat each other with so much respect. Really, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Finn. I would like to now ask from each of my speakers to share their last concluding words, starting with Aisling.
I think it's already been said really what I'd want to say, and it's slightly echoing what I think George was saying. But actually, you know, there is energy, I think, in civil society and in faith groups, and kind of that was really electric kind of in Glasgow. But I think I work with young people, I work in schools, and you know, that is one of the big questions nowadays of, you know, what are we doing and how do we do it, and the eagerness to do something. So yeah, I think just carry on these conversations and all the work that sort of people here are involved in and doing, because you know, it is getting through, and I think the change is kind of on its way and happening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aisling. Can I continue with Don De Silva?
Thank you. In a nutshell, I think the critical proof is the continuation of the energy that has been generated in a summit like that of Glasgow. So how do you sustain your commitment? And this is where faith comes in. Because to me, it is my faith that has enabled me through these practices to sustain the commitment during positive times, during achievements, and also during difficult and challenging times in the world of the environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Don. Sorry, I'm rushing into everyone at the moment because I'm aware of the time, and I really do appreciate that you stayed until the very end of this evening. Nicole, please, can I have your closing remarks?
Thank you, Eda.
For pointing out that we should be having a follow-up of this international, intergenerational dialogue, and this will be our aim to do so because it's been asked from our audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Eda, and thank you, everyone. I think for me, it comes down to personal responsibility and really focusing on how I can bring about change in my own life, and focus less on what I expect from others, but really aim for educating myself and motivating myself to carry out small or big changes in my life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicole. And thank you so much all. Do you have any last comments? Please do send it to youth.coordinator. This event will have a follow-up. Please in future reach us. We are open to working together with like-minded organizations and individuals from faith groups or none who share the same values with us. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. With respect and appreciation, I'm ending tonight's meeting. Thank you.
I think we should be grateful to you, Ada, for making this happen, because when things come together like this, it works for those people who suffer the most, which are the people with the least resources. So you have worked together and guided us for a juster, fairer, greener, and cleaner world. Thank you, Ada.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. See you soon, all. Have a great evening and take care of yourselves.